All right, you know those lighthouses, all isolated and romantic?
Yeah.
Well, today we're going to look into one that took, well, a dark turn.
Sounds interesting.
The Flannan Isles, off the coast of Scotland. They're pretty much surrounded by, challenging waters.
The North Atlantic.
Yeah, it definitely tests even experienced sailors.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. The number of shipwrecks around there is, well, it tells you something about how quickly things can go wrong.
Right, and that's exactly why the lighthouse on Eilean Mor, one of those islands, was essential, I guess. So we've got some pretty interesting stuff to help us figure this whole thing out. Historical accounts, official reports, even a poem about what happened to three lighthouse keepers. They vanished back in December of 1900.
It's a story that just, it grabs you. And not just because, it's a mystery. It's like, it makes you think about nature and how fragile life really is.
Okay, so picture this. Eilean Mor. Tiny, rocky island. I mean, it's basically a giant cliff
Wow.
straight out of the Atlantic.
Yeah, so you've got this sheer cliff, and it's just constantly hit by the Atlantic. It's relentless. And the lighthouse was brand new then. Right on top of this cliff, the keepers, well, they had to deal with some pretty brutal weather. Total isolation, too. And knowing that, well, ships depended on them.
That doesn't sound easy.
No, it wasn't.
So it's December 26, 1900. The relief ship, the Hesperus, gets to Eilean Mor. Routine visit, swap the crew, bring supplies, all that. But this time, something's wrong.
Something's definitely off as the Hesperus gets closer. You know what I mean? No sign of life. And the light, I mean, it should have been guiding them in, right? But it's out.
And the captain's trying to signal them nothing. The relief keeper, Joseph Moore, he goes ashore to investigate. And what he finds is, well, it's the beginning of a mystery that we still haven't solved.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
The lighthouse door.
Yeah.
Locked.
Yeah.
And inside, things are, well, not right. The clocks have stopped. Beds are unmade, like someone just left in the middle of dinner. There's a half-eaten meal just sitting there on the table.
It's like I don't know, like someone pressed pause on everything, but no sign of the three keepers. James Ducat, the principal keeper, Thomas Marshall, his first assistant, and Donald MacArthur, the second assistant, just gone.
And there's something else. It's well, it makes things even weirder. One set of oilskins, what they wore in bad weather, they're missing, and a pair of boots.
Hold on. So if they got swept away by a wave or something, why wouldn't they have all their gear? It doesn't make sense.
That's one of the big questions.
Yeah.
It's baffled people for well over 100 years. The official investigation was run by Superintendent Muirhead. They looked at the damage to the West Landing, the side that gets hit by the worst of the Atlantic.
So they figured a huge wave, maybe a rogue wave, hit while they were out there.
That's what they said, yeah. Muirhead's report says the damage was just, well, unbelievable. He had to see it to believe it. A heavy iron box busted open, all its contents scattered, iron railings bent, even a huge rock, like over a ton, moved.
Whoa. So how would they even, survive something like that?
Exactly. And that's one of the things about the rogue wave theory, right? Those waves are real. They're scary. But they're also, well, pretty rare, especially if you're not in open ocean. And the Flannan Isles, yeah, they're exposed, but they are somewhat sheltered. So the odds of a rogue wave hitting that exact spot are not debatable.
Okay, so maybe the rogue wave theory isn't, maybe it's not the answer. So then what about the other weird stuff? Like the last entry in the logbook is December 13th. But it looks like someone was working around the lighthouse on the 15th.
And there's more. They found a slate. It had like detailed weather observations on it for December 15th, but it never got put in the logbook. Almost like whoever was doing it, well, like they didn't get to finish.
Okay, so we've got damage that, points to a big storm. But then we also have proof that someone was still at the lighthouse after the storm was supposed to have hit. So what are we missing?
That's the question, isn't it? The things that don't add up, they're what make this so interesting and so frustrating.
Oh, and what about those oilskins and boots? Why would one of the keepers go out, especially into something dangerous, without, the right gear?
I know. It's like a clue.
Yeah.
But we don't know what it means. It's like it's taunting us. It's like the island's hiding something. And the sea, well, is not talking. No bodies were ever found.
Yeah. That makes it even creepier, So many possibilities. But okay, let's stick to what we know. We know those guys were really careful about their jobs. They had to keep everything in good shape. The landings, all the equipment, or they could get fined.
Oh, yeah. They knew what they were doing. It wasn't like they were rookies or anything. The risks, the isolation, all of it. So it makes it even weirder that they just disappeared.
So could they have been, I don't know, maybe trying to fix something on that west landing before the next inspection, even if the storm had passed? Maybe they were worried about, getting in trouble for damage from the earlier gales.
Hmm, that's possible. But then what about those oilskins? If they were just doing some repairs, why wouldn't that keeper be wearing them?
Right. Unless, what if it was just two of them?
Interesting. Now you're thinking. Some people think that it was just James Duquette and Thomas Marshall on the West Landing,
Uh,
that Donald MacArthur stayed behind.
okay, so maybe MacArthur sees these huge waves coming and runs to warn the others, but, it ends badly.
It's dramatic, right? And it fits with, one set of oilskins being left at the lighthouse. But there's always a but. It doesn't explain everything.
Like the locked door
Yeah,
and the east landing. If MacArthur ran out to help them, why lock up? And why not use the east landing? It would have been more sheltered from the storm.
exactly. That's why that theory, it has some problems. There are holes in it.
Okay, so rogue waves, a rescue, gone wrong. And then there's the theory that always comes up with these things. A fight?
You mean like isolated location, people get on each other's nerves kind of thing? Yeah, it's popular. And some people say that, well, that Donald MacArthur had kind of a temper. So maybe they argued and things got out of hand near the cliff. And, well, all three of them ended up going over.
I don't know about that. I mean, an argument so bad that all three of them end up, dead, it seems a bit much, even for a place like that.
I agree. It's been used in stories and stuff,
Yeah.
but there's no real proof. It feels more like, I don't know, a way to add drama.
Oh, speaking of drama, there's that poem, Flann and Isle, by Wilfred Wilson Gibson.
Right.
It's pretty creepy. Really captures the feeling of that lighthouse empty.
Yeah, you can really feel that something's wrong. In the poem, it's like he's giving voice to it. That sudden disappearance. He describes the search party, finding the door open, the meal, just sitting there. The chair tips over. It's like a snapshot, frozen, but the people are just gone.
There's this one line that always gets me. And so yet wondering, side by side, we stood a moment, still tongue-tied, and each with black foreboding eye, the door, ere we should fling it wide, to leave the sunlight for the gloom. Hmm. It's like the island itself knows something's wrong, but it's not saying anything.
It's that fear of the unknown. That there are things out there that we just don't understand. And the poem, it goes there. It even suggests that maybe the island is cursed or haunted.
Now, I'm not usually into, ghosts and stuff, but there's something about this case. It makes you wonder. We've talked about the normal explanations, but what if there's more to it? Like, what about those stories about ghost ships, Viking longboats?
The Vikings were there
Mhm.
a long time ago. And those stories, they were still around about spirits at sea, supernatural beings, even vengeful creatures in the water.
Yeah.
So yeah, you could see how those stories would get mixed up with this.
It's like when things don't make sense, we try to fill in the blanks, even if it means, going into the supernatural.
Right. And those stories, they do something for us. They show us how we feel about nature, about how fragile life is, about the mysteries that we'll probably never solve. It's how we deal with the things we can't know.
So, rogue waves, rescues, arguments, maybe even ghosts. But in the end, it's about people. Three men with lives, families, who just vanished. And their families, they never really knew what happened.
It's hard to imagine
Yeah.
not knowing,
Yeah.
always wondering, never really understanding.
It really makes you think about the people involved, And the
Yeah.
place. It's like they didn't just disappear, they disappeared from this island that already feels, I don't know, like it's on the edge of the world.
The Flannan Isles.
Yeah.
They're beautiful, but they're also, there's something about them stark, unforgiving. Like you can feel the weight of everything, the sky, the waves, like you're completely at the mercy of nature.
Yeah, it really shows you just how powerful nature is. And then you have the lighthouse right on that cliff. It's like we're trying to, control the chaos.
But then this mystery happens, and it reminds us that, well, that we can't control everything. It's a story that, well, it's a lot of things. A detective story, a ghost story. It makes you think about what it means to be human.
It makes me wonder about those guys. What was it like to live on that island? Just the sea and the sky. We tend to think about lighthouse life in a romantic way. The solitude, being close to nature, But it was probably pretty tough.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Hard work, tough conditions,
Right.
and the isolation.
Yeah.
That couldn't have been easy. And they weren't just, keeping a light on. They were keeping people safe. Ships, I mean. in dangerous waters.
Right.
That's a lot of responsibility.
And then they're gone, just like that. No, it's just sad.
It is.
They were keeping other people safe, and then they disappear. And their families. They're left with nothing, no answers, just this mystery.
We know James Ducat, the principal keeper, he had a family, a wife, and 4 kids. Can you imagine what that was like for them? He was from Edinburgh, and he'd been working in lighthouses for a long time. Before Eilean Mor, I mean.
So he knew what he was doing. And Thomas Marshall, the first assistant, he was experienced too, but Donald MacArthur, the second assistant, he was just filling in. For another keeper who was sick, he was the least experienced of the 3.
And yet, they all, they all ended up the same way. It just shows you sometimes things happen, even if you're careful, even if you know what you're doing.
The Flannan Isles, it's like a reminder that we don't know everything. We can look for clues, we can guess, but sometimes, well, we'll never know the truth.
And maybe that's part of what keeps us coming back to this story. It's a reminder that there are still mysteries out there. And in a world where we think we know everything, well, that's a good thing.
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely a story that stays with you. It makes you think about, well, about our place in the world, how small we are, really, compared to, to the unknown.
The takeaway, it's okay not to know, not to have all the answers.
Yeah.
And to enjoy the stories that make us question things and that make us, make us feel a sense of wonder.
Sometimes the best stories, they're the ones that leave you with questions, the ones that make you want to know more.
And maybe someday we will know more. Maybe there's some evidence out there that we haven't found yet. But until then, it's a reminder of how powerful the unknown can be.
Well, that's it for our deep dive into the Flannan Isles mystery. We hope you enjoyed it, and maybe it gave you some things to think about. Thanks for listening.